Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Maddie and I'm an energy consultant at a firm near Washington, D.C. I'm also a part-time master's student studying sustainability, and I'm here to share everything that has to do with careers in sustainability. When I was just starting out in college, I was a little lost and I wish I had had someone to guide me through the process, so that is what I will be doing today. So, jobs in sustainability or environmental science tend to get a bad rap when it comes to money. They are often painted in the light of sacrifice, where you are giving up your financial well-being to uphold your morality. But that doesn't always have to be the case. There are plenty of jobs in our field where you can still pursue your passion and work towards the lofty goal of, well, saving the world, and still make a decent amount of money doing it. So today I wanted to share with you the top paying jobs in sustainability. I am going to share the average salary range, the job description and basic responsibilities of each position, as well as the pros and the cons of each, because every job that we're going to talk about today does have pros and it also has cons. Now, I know sustainability can be a pretty large umbrella, and people interested in doing something sustainable or working in the field of sustainability can come from a number of different backgrounds, from policy to science to business to law. Now, the top paying jobs that are in this list do tend to have some variety, so hopefully one or a few speak to you and what your background is. All right. So we will start with the lowest paying job within this top 10 high paying jobs, and then work our way all the way up to the highest paying job in sustainability. These jobs kind of start at entry level, as you would imagine. The lower paying jobs have less experience. We'll work our way up through the mid-level positions, and then the higher paying jobs do tend to be those of senior level positions or even executive level positions. I also do want to have a quick disclaimer that the numbers I will be providing are salary ranges, and they are based off of the ranges in Washington, D.C. So if you are located in a different area of the country or maybe a less metropolitan area, I would take that into consideration as well. I also do want to note that in different areas of the country, there are different demands for each one of these jobs. So even if it does have a higher pay, the demand might be lower, or it might be more competitive to get into that kind of job wherever you live. In that vein, I also just want to mention that my intention here is not to make any false promises that if you do land one of these jobs, you will be rich or you will be making this exact salary. Many of these positions do take a lot of hard work to get into, but if you are just starting out in the field, it can be really motivating to know what pathways lie ahead of you and what your career path might look like moving forward. With that said, let's get into it. To start us out, the first job I want to mention is geologists. The average salary range for geologists in Washington, D.C. is $66,000 US dollars to $95,000 US dollars per year. They study the Earth's structure, the Earth's history, the Earth's materials and processes. So in terms of location, if you live in an area with a lot of earthquakes, for example, a geologist might be contracted out to analyze the locations that are most suitable or at least suitable to build large structures, or to evaluate where existing structures might be at a higher risk of damage in the future when inevitably more earthquakes hit. You can make the most impact as a geologist in developing areas where natural disasters are not too uncommon. So they can do these environmental assessments, but their work can also stretch into the oil industry or other resource industries. So that brings us to the pros and cons of being a geologist. One of the most appealing pros, I think, is that you get to be outside for most of the time while you are conducting those environmental assessments. If you are in this line of work, from my own anecdotal experience, I've found a lot of people in this line of work do really like to be outside. So this specific job does have that opportunity to get out into the field, get your hands dirty. The flip side of that is that when you are in the field, You tend to have a lot of irregular working hours, and a lot of the times that means working over 40 hours a week. So if you really want a very solid work-life balance, this might not be for you. A lot of people in this field are driven by the passion to help the communities that they're working in, and so that tends to reflect itself in working over 40 hours a week. There also are a limited number, at least in my area, in Washington, D.C., there's a limited number of entry-level positions, so you would likely need a few years of experience under your belt to get this, so it's just something to consider. Our next position is ecologists, with an average salary of $68,000 US to $89,000 US per year. Similar to geologists, they are also earth scientists studying the Earth's processes, and they also have the opportunity to get their hands dirty and work outside in the field, but rather than studying the Earth's history and sedentary processes or very slow moving processes, they study dynamic ecosystems and how plants, animals, and humans interact with those systems. They study biodiversity, analyze the impact of human activities, and apply conservation methods to places like parks, wildlife areas, residential areas, really anything that has a piece of the natural world in it, they can apply those conservation principles to. Ecologists do tend to have positions with some component of lab work or field work. That does tend to be a good thing for folks who are interested in this field, but it, of course, really depends on your preferences. I have found from personal experience that a lot of people are motivated to join this field because they are able to make a direct impact on a park that kind of sparked their passion for sustainability and the environment. And you can create the conservation plan that directly improves that park. So if you are into a more hands-on approach, I would recommend checking out ecology as a profession. Some things to consider, however, is that many positions do require an advanced degree, typically a PhD for any role requiring research, and this tends to be a financial barrier to many, so it would be worth looking into grant programs or scholarships. A lot of the time you can get paid for those PhD programs or even be paid while you're doing it. And then another thing I would say, again, going back to our point of location, the demand for this job really depends on where you live. If you live in a metropolitan area, there will be a smaller demand than if you live right next to a state or a national park for ecologists. So it might be best if you live near a state or national park, or if you live close to a university with a big research focus on ecology, if you want to have the most optimal job growth in that field. So moving on to a job that does have a really high job outlook, and that is the solar energy consultant. These people make on average $66,000 US to $92,000 US per year. As a consultant, they assess, analyze, and visualize the needs and demands of their clients. They'll design solar solutions, and they will advise their clients on transitioning to solar power. They can work in a number of sectors, from residential to commercial to industrial to private or public, you name it, they will be there. As I mentioned, this job does have one of the highest job outlooks, largely due to an ever-growing demand for renewable energy and for solar implementation in the market. It doesn't really look like renewable energy is going anywhere in the near future, so it might be a good idea to take advantage of that now when the competition isn't too high. That said, this position does require a high degree of technical knowledge and expertise, and you will likely need a background in engineering to make accurate and robust assessments for your client. And in addition to that, you will also need skills that are helpful in sales or client relationships so that you can really figure out what your clients need and work with them one-on-one to make sure they are staying happy. Sometimes what clients want is different from what they need, and you will need good communication skills and people skills to navigate that kind of situation. All right, so our next few job types are different breeds of engineers, which you would expect on this list of high-paying environmental or sustainable jobs. So the lowest paying out of the engineer types is the environmental engineer. They make an average salary between $71,000 and $92,000. Environmental engineers specifically focus on addressing pollution and waste management issues. They serve as an intersection between the built and the natural environments, so between cities or residential areas and parks and wildlife areas. A lot of them tend to focus on water quality and air quality or improving water systems. Environmental engineers really have a diverse set of career path choices, and many do tend to focus on ensuring that companies are in compliance with local, state, or federal regulations. This usually involves going out into the field, so if you do like to be outside, again, you have the opportunity to do that in this position, and you'll take samples to make sure they are in compliance with those regulations. However, this might lead you to possible exposure for hazardous materials or chemicals, and having that risk on the job might not be everyone's cup of tea. But of course, if you are curious about engineering, or you are an engineer and you want to change industries, becoming an environmental engineer might be something to consider. The second type of engineer I'd like to call out is the sustainable engineer, and this is a very new field in engineering, and most colleges don't even offer this kind of major, but you can still be hired as a sustainable engineer with any type of engineering background. Sustainable engineers have an average salary of $85,000 to $107,000. They mainly focus on creating more environmentally friendly, quote-unquote, products, buildings, systems, depending on the industry. Generally, their projects are looking to meet certain sustainability standards like LEED, or to meet specifications required by that specific jurisdiction. They might work in manufacturing, where they would perhaps look into designing a lower energy light bulb, or they could do more of the civil engineering side of things, where they look at larger construction projects and coordinate those large-scale sustainability projects. Another thing they can do is integrate sustainability principles into engineering designs of any type. Now, this is different from the environmental engineer, even though they seem very similar at first glance. While the environmental engineer does work primarily with the natural world, looking to reduce natural resource depletion or doing site remediation, the sustainability engineer works more in the built environment, looking at product life cycles, commercial or industrial buildings, electric cars, or sustainable appliances even. There really are a diverse set of projects that you could work on, so if you're into having that variety, it might be worth looking into something like this. However, in some of the industries, it can be a pretty niche field, so do watch out for that if you're looking for those specific industries. Okay, and on the flip side, we have the energy engineer, who make an average salary of $82,000 to $110,000. This one is a bit more technical than the last one we just talked about, since they work more specifically on energy efficient systems, working from the design stage all the way through to implementation. Often this work will focus on renewable energy systems, mostly solar and wind, because those are the two most popular and common renewable energy systems. Their ultimate goal is to reduce carbon emissions into the atmosphere. Often their highest value is on efficiency, so that whatever energy source they are working with produces the highest amount of energy for the lowest amount of that resource. They do have to coordinate with multidisciplinary teams, which does have a level of communication skills and interpersonal skills that you do need for this position, along with the technical skills of being an engineer. They often work with policy and compliance specialists on both sides of the aisle to ensure that their designs are meeting sustainability standards. With this does come some complex decision making, and a lot of the times they have to balance practicality with the ambitious sustainability goals that they often have. So now finally moving on from the engineering side of things and onto more the corporate and managerial type of positions. Next, we have the environmental health and safety managers. And these folks make an average of $87,000 and $122,000 per year. These people ensure that workplaces comply with environmental standards. I know OSHA is a really big one for them, and they really just prioritize the well-being of their employees. There is definitely research out there that indicates that a healthy and safe working environment leads to better focus and a productive workplace overall. So these environmental health and safety officers can be very highly valued in a company. As part of the job, they do go into the field, which is often going to those specific job sites, and they conduct inspections on the actual workplace that they are developing specific protocols for. There is a demand for these individuals in any industry currently, and the job outlook is just getting higher and higher. However, the mental demand that this does have on people in this role can be pretty high. This position does have a tendency towards stressful situations, and oftentimes the compliance that they're regulating does have high consequences. So if you do thrive under pressure and you are detail oriented, it would be a good one for you. Similarly is the sustainability manager, who gets paid on average slightly more than the environmental health and safety officer, and that would be $118,000 to $167,000 US. Sustainability managers oversee all of their organization's sustainability initiatives and campaigns. They may work on campaigns within their specific organization to work on internal sustainability, so working with individual employees to improve their sustainability on the day-to-day. They also may track greenhouse gas emissions for their reporting purposes, with the goal of reducing the company's overall carbon footprint. I know a lot of companies now have set goals of being net zero by 2025 or 2030, but they need a sustainability manager to actually track their emissions and see what their progress is towards those goals. Usually, they will work with the company's stakeholders to make sure that all of the company's resources, especially their finances, are being allocated correctly, and they kind of use the lens of sustainability as a problem-solving strategy to help the company grow in a more sustainable way. In this role, you do get the opportunity to work with a bunch of different people, so you get to work with your own coworkers, also company leadership, stakeholders, maybe different non-governmental organizations in that specific area or industry. Maybe you'll work with government agencies, even up to the federal level. And all of your activities in this role have that baseline component of working to make the company more sustainable. With this in mind, if you are working at a company that does not value sustainability, it can sometimes be challenging to run campaigns that have a focus on sustainability, as not everyone might be keen on your ideas. We all know this is a highly politicized issue, so when you are the leader of sustainability at that position, it may be difficult. Just something to keep in mind. Of course, you're going to get that anywhere in this field, so you will need to have a persistent attitude if you want to be successful in this role. At number 9, we have the environmental lawyer. They make an average salary of $110,000 to $152,000 per year. They are on the front lines of advocating for environmental protection, especially in the United States. They have the opportunity to influence the policies and the laws that are being created around the environment and sustainability. So you can really make a difference with your own voice in this role, which is pretty cool. Environmental lawyers may work in the courtroom advocating for natural resources or habitat protection. They may lobby Congress for legislation on clean air or clean energy. Or you might be working on writing up sustainable business policies for a company. If you do choose this route, you will likely become very familiar with the 3 big laws in the United States. Those are the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Endangered Species Act. Most laws and policies that are created now can be tracked down to those big 3. This job, however, of course, comes with its hardships. You do need a law degree, of course, which does take 3 years and quite a bit of money to obtain, and it's not easy. Also, the legal proceedings for any environmental case is going to be highly controversial. You might have some pretty long and frustrating days ahead of you, but again, like the sustainability manager, you'll want to be persistent to be very successful in this role. You see a theme here. Okay, so this is the moment you've all been waiting for, and that is the highest paying job in the sustainability industry. And that is, to no one's surprise, it is the Chief Sustainability Officer, who makes an average of 150,000 US dollars to 198,000 US dollars per year on average. These people are at the top of the top. They're at the top of the hierarchy in the company. They work directly with the CEO. The Chief Sustainability Officer is responsible for the most big picture or zoomed out version of the company's sustainability goals. Someone in this role would work with the strategic team to look at the business strategies and look at ways that sustainability can lead to profit within the business. They often integrate both environmental and social considerations, and they help to shape the corporate sustainability vision as a whole, and they have the chance to make a huge impact. However, it is not an easy job. There is often high-pressure decision-making involved, especially when you do have to balance the sustainability values with the other values of the company. You will definitely be working long hours in this role. Again, persistence is a must, and so is a passion to help save the planet. So there you have it, folks, the top 10 highest paying jobs in sustainability. If you enjoyed this type of content, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe below if you want to see more on sustainability. Bye!